keeping a close eye on that one. I'm hoping Dortmund can nick a winner in the first leg and go to Paris with a lead. But Neymar's up to his old tricks, I see, throwing himself on the floor a few times. But what else would you expect?
Fair enough. He's also shaved his head, like Mourinho, I noticed as well. Is there some sort of,
Yeah, shaved his head and got a beard. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's Neymar for you.
Speaking of shaved heads, it's time to introduce our next guest. Radio presenter for Burgess Hill Radio and the secretary of the Mid Sussex Blues, the Mid Sussex Man City supporters group. Please welcome Daryn Buckley. Daryn, welcome to the show.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening.
Yeah, we're very
Should we
good,
try it
thank
with the
you.
microphone?
We'll
There we go. That's better.
yeah.
Good evening.
That's
I
what we
normally
have-
don't need a microphone in that loud.
We have you noticed that really quickly because you're a fellow radio presenter. Normally I can get away with those kind of tricks, but no, you were straight on the mark with that one. So
Of course. Never show you plumbing.
Yeah.
They always say that to me. I'd have no show without any plumbing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, well, thank you for joining the show. We had you booked on before the big announcement, so
You did.
I was absolutely delighted when that news came through.
Yeah, thanks for
Because
arranging it for me. I appreciate that.
Got in touch with UEFA,
So anyone listening at home, obviously you're a big Manchester City fan, and obviously secretary, as I mentioned, of the Mid Sussex Blues. So this is a story very close to your heart. Manchester City. It was revealed on Valentine's Day. I hope it didn't ruin your romantic.
What
evening.
a lovely present that was. Yeah, lovely.
That Manchester City have indeed been banned for 2 seasons from European competition, as well as a €30 million fine for breaches of financial fair play rules. This is an ongoing investigation that's been since last March, I believe. It's and it was a shock to the football world, and it's still very much reverberating around it as the Champions League picks up again this week. So, I mean, where were you? Where
It's
were
still
you when you found the
reverberating
news?
around my head at the moment, I have to say.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it was Jay that broke the news to me.
Is that
I was
right?
watching
Wow.
the cricket. I was watching
We
the
really
cricket
are
on
good at reporting.
Friday.
I know.
It's really good. I'm beginning to see some kind of conspiracy now. I'm getting quite nervous.
Yeah.
I was watching the cricket on a delay.
Right.
So I had all my mobile switched off, so I didn't get any kind of texts or anything like that. And literally got a message from Jay saying, after tonight's news, it'll be great to have you on.
Bad news. Yeah.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day, by the way.
Yeah.
So I was at home watching cricket. I'm such a romantic, aren't I?
Yeah. Well, that's sweet.
The thing is, with that news breaking that day after we'd organised you to come in here, you won't want to come and speak to us again.
Oh, no, I don't mind. I love it.
Yeah?
I'm a City fan.
What's
I
gonna
love
happen
the drama.
What's going to happen next
I love
time?
the drama.
Okay.
I mean,
we're trying to arrange that.
So let's delve right into it then. I mean, surely there must have been a part of you with all the kind of talk that's been going on over the years, not just the last year, but ever since Man City had this meteoric rise. There's always been kind of suspicious eyebrows raised over the legitimacy of it. But what's your immediate feeling about it now? Like, are you kind of on the side of your club, or do you kind of see where UEFA are coming from? Or like, where's your head at the moment?
Okay, I can take a balanced view because I have to. I'm getting old, so I have to kind of take a balanced
I bet it wasn't
view.
balanced on Friday night.
It absolutely wasn't. It's not massively balanced now, if I'm honest with you. I'm going to take the side of my club. Basically, there's something at play here. Okay, there is some cooking of the books. Obviously, I'm not an accountant. I don't know the ins and outs of it. From what I can work out, the City's gripe, and I think this is fair argument. City's gripe is around the fact that they had settled with UEFA way back. I think it was 2012 that they settled this definition of what's called a related party, which is basically if you have a sponsorship deal through a related party, which we did, they decided that they were going to define Etihad Airways as a related party. That as long you can accept money as a donation, if you like, from the owner through a related party, as long as it was at market value. And City accepted that donation. That they accepted that Etihad were a related party and took a fine. I think it was £60 million. So they've already caned us once on this. And we accepted the ruling, reluctantly accepted the ruling. Unfortunately, in accepting that ruling, what appears to now have happened is they've said they've found a hacked email somewhere, which was obtained illegally. So there's all kinds of legal stuff around there as to, that City is saying that email is taken out of context. no idea. Basically, if it's anything like the emails I've sent in the past, it could mean anything. So we await developments on that. I guess there's that side of it. I think from my perspective, it's UEFA have kind of gone back on the word a little bit. They said that related party. This is it. We see that this is what's happened. We're going to slap your wrists. That's it. As long as you carry on since then, without breaking the rules, which is what we believe we've done. We've worked with UEFA all along. We've submitted our accounts to them. They've approved our accounts all the way. And we were assured that if there were any further sanctions, there would be financial and no ban. I think City have called the bluff. There's obviously this thing around non-cooperation that's going on.
I think that's the main thing about this, and the severity of the ban. From what I can understand, is that it's whilst yes, there is some. As you call it, cooking in the books, or this kind of
accounting. I think it's probably called.
Slightly
wider term.
Misreporting of commercial fees and all. Once you get to the nitty gritty of it, but it's more kind of City's information that they've provided in the past that perhaps was misleading, which has been uncovered from these leaked emails. So I heard a good analogy about it, and this is from a journalist who's been reporting it from The Guardian. So this is
I know the gentleman in person, Jonathan Liu, is it?
Yeah. So he made it the analogy about a parking fine, not a speeding ticket. So you're caught speeding, and you get 3 points on your license, or you go to a seminar on speeding or whatever. But if you that's a very minor discretion. But if you then say you lie about the crime and say, well, actually it was my partner driving, or to try and cover it up, that then becomes a very serious crime, and that results to jail time. So that's kind of very different circumstances, but trying to explain what's going on. When in this circumstances, it's not so much what they've done, it's the manner in which they've done it, the misreporting of it, which makes it more of a severe crime, which I find quite interesting, really, because it's. I'm like you. I'm not an expert on this kind of stuff, but I guess that's kind of their perception of it. Manchester City have reacted pretty aggressively to this in their statements, and and have kind of called it, like kangaroo court of a conspiracy or.
I'm not sure they use those words. I'm aware. Don't want to get anyone into trouble. But, I think the other side of it, and I would agree. All right, let's use the analogy about a speeding fine.
Yeah.
You have a speeding fine. You go on your speed awareness course. You might get a fine. You might get points on your license. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
When you suddenly come back 5 years later and say, oh, what about that speeding that you did a few years ago? Well, hold on, you didn't quite fill out the paperwork right on that speed, so we're going to actually ban you from driving now and fine you again. That's basically what appears to have happened here. These crimes, in inverted commas, are ancient. Well, in relative accounting terms, they are ancient. City are now receiving their own money. They are operating at a profit. This is purely on the thing that UEFA feel they've got us on. We stopped cooperating when they announced the punishment before they'd even started the investigation. That is when City stopped cooperating. And fine, you could argue it's a little bit childish. We threw our toys out of the pram. I think what City was saying to UEFA is, well, come on, take us on, because we think we've got a watertight case here. And I think time will tell. And I think UEFA did the only thing that they could do in that circumstance, which is come out all guns blazing and throw as much mud as possible and see how much of it sticks. And people, in inverted commas, like Jonathan Liu, who's had it in for us for a long, long time.
Because he's been quiet for a little while.
Yeah, and did you see my tweet then?
Yeah.
He came back into the public eye in a rather timely fashion.
Exactly.
There is a bit of an agenda against City because we did things. We got a bit of a shortcut. I'm not going to deny it. We were nowhere in 2008. Well, we were going bust, quite frankly. We had to sell Sean Wright-Phillips basically to stay in business. Thank you, Sean. He was great. He was brilliant.
But that's why a lot of non-United fans and non-City fans have a look kindly at Man City, because a lot of Man City fans have been in the doldrums of experience going down to League One, and a lot of Premier League clubs, I would say at least 6 or 7, have never experienced relegation, let alone dropping down to League One and being close to going out of business. Yeah. So a lot of proper football fans would
and I'd agree. And the other analogy I would say, Jay, is if it was Crystal Palace. So if Crystal Palace got taken over by the United Arab Emirates and they said, this is what you can have, would you say, oh no, that's fine, I'm not going to take it, thanks?
Of course I wouldn't.
No, exactly. And
throw more money, please.
and that's the thing. It's my club. It was my club when we were in the second division. I was a season ticket holder up in Manchester then. I was there when we got beat 2-1 at home by Bury. I was there when a fan ran in front onto the pitch and tore his season ticket up, which basically started the whole John Wardle takeover and the long road back, if you like. And without that moment, without that guy throwing his season ticket onto the pitch, we wouldn't have this now. But I watched my side win a domestic treble last year, and you can throw all the fines in the world at me. You'll never change that.
Well, so that's interesting, because obviously there's been a lot of kind of conjecture since this ruling. I mean, it's and also the way I've kind of reacted to it is much like when it was announced that, not that it's a similar situation, but much like when Donald Trump was impeached, it was like, well, I'll believe it when I see it. Do you know what I mean? I'll believe, and obviously that it kind of it came to nothing. So I kind of am looking at this like I'll be stunned if City aren't in Europe next season, to be honest. And I'm sure once it goes to CAS, it will be delayed, or the ban will be suspended or shortened or whatever. But there has been a lot of conjecture and speculation over. You've got the likes of Steven Gerrard and Jose Mourinho piping up about the potentially being awarded
Jose
titles.
Mourinho saying things.
And,
wow.
I mean, in jest, I don't think anyone's seriously saying it, but I think they have been saying, Man United title, or the famous Gerrard slip title. I
was in a pub just outside Selhurst Park when that happened. Yes, that was an amazing day.
Yeah,
But have we cheated on the pitch? I mean, and I appreciate this is...
No, I didn't. I don't think so.
Have we cheated is the other question. Why,
Do you feel confident in the appeal?
Yes.
You do?
Or
confident in the Court of Arbitration for Sport it's going to, isn't it?
No, that's a different question. I suspect that City will take it as far as they can take it.
Oh, no
so
doubt.
it'll go
no
to,
doubt.
And this is... I hate it when I have to defend my club, because I never want to come over as sounding arrogant.
Yeah.
Because I've been where I've been as a City fan.
Yeah.
I appreciate every second. I've never dreamt of having some of the players that we've got playing for us. And we took a massive shortcut. Let's be honest. We were a hell of a long way away from the likes of Arsenal, from the likes of Chelsea, United and Liverpool, and we got a bit of a leg up. But, financial fair play. And again, this isn't a defence, because you can't defend it. You can't just say, well, I can go as fast as I want in the car, to stretch this metaphor a little bit further. Well, I can go as fast as I want because I don't believe in the speeding laws. You can't do that. And if UEFA say, no, the rules are the rules, and CAS holds that up, fair enough. It's a great ride. Loved it.
That was kind of the point I was going to make. I mean, no one can take away the experiences you've had over the last decade. No. And I think even if it was to go as extreme, which I highly doubt it's going to happen, but if it went to as extreme as stripping titles and reallocating to the United or whatever, even for those teams that would take them, it wouldn't feel like a win. It'd be completely nonsense.
I can't see any of that. I think Mourinho's being a bit mischievous, he likes to be.
He was asked a question.
Steven Gerrard probably similarly. I think we might still get a ban. It wouldn't surprise me if it was reduced to 1 year. City were confident that there wasn't going to be a ban. Let's hope that is the case. If not, it's one season. I doubt whether we'd lose our entire squad over one season. We lose 100 million if we don't take part in the Champions League one season. We're lucky in that on our balance sheet we've got quite a wealth of talent on there. So we might have to sell a player. But
do you have any concerns over Pep Guardiola, or do you believe him when the reported words from him are saying that he?
Well, there's been a bit of closing the ranks, isn't there? Since
I think that's more to do with that. If I'm a realist, I'm a realist, if we get him next season, I'd be delighted. I remember I'm an emotional man, and I burst out crying when I found out we were getting him. It's wildest dream stuff. It really is. And
you were like that with Unai Emery, weren't you?
But crying for different reasons. I was crying because he looks like Dracula, and I was scared.
He is quite a scary character. Do you know what? Again, with Pep, I'm quite magnanimous. I was speaking to a Manchester journalist. We had a recent social event for Mid Sussex Blues, and a journalist who's sort of well in with the club and what have you. He was telling me the FFP was going to be 5 years ban with 4 of them suspended. So that was the word on the street. So and that Pep was going this summer. And
interesting.
That a certain former Tottenham Hotspur manager was being lined up. You can believe as much as you want of that. I'd be. Well, I hope it's not Villas-Boas anyway. Or Mourinho.
Well, if you're down in League Two, maybe, but
that
it is one of those things, especially with social media. This kind of thing comes up, people jump on it, and talks of the Premier League getting involved, which they would have their right to, because if the same mispurported earnings have gone to the same place as the Premier League, they might act strongly. But I would just be very surprised to see this happening.
I think the problem is that UEFA have got a lot of skeletons in their cupboard, and I think City will go after each and every one of them until they get what they want. And I think the Premier League have got absolutely no. I'm not saying this is right, by the way. I just think this is what will happen. I think the Premier League.
Do you think
got similar concerns?
People in glass houses kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think if this was one of the conventional big sides, your Real, Barca, Man United?
This was my point. This is the point I was
Manchester City have often been kind of like the perennial outsiders to that. Whilst they are, you say they're a big club now. Historically, with respect, they're not in that bracket.
I get that.
So if this was, say, Arsenal or United or Liverpool, is there a part of you that feels that because you're kind of the new boys with the new money, there would be different treatment elsewhere?
I'll quote another journalist back to you, Martin Samuel in the Daily Mail. Basically has been saying this for a long time, that financial fair play is an absolute farce, and it's the big clubs trying to pull the drawbridge up to stop anyone else joining their elite.
Elitism,
absolutely. And and it's the whole thing around the European Premier League, which is what they were trying to get together. City tried to get on Chelsea managed to get on there a few years earlier. We've tried to do the same. We tried to join the party. The worst part of this is, whether we're in it or not, it's going to be a closed shop from now on, especially with financial fair play. You can't see a situation whereby another club will come into money and join that elite club. So and is it eventually going to eat itself because it's the same old clubs? I don't know the answer.
Which is my view, because it kind of watching. I know Gary Neville used to play for your rivals, but Gary Neville spoke a lot of sense last night.
Great pundit.
What he said last night about FFP being not worth the paper it's written on, and the fact that it doesn't help clubs, and it's purely elitism to keep those top clubs. You look at other clubs that have had suspended bans. Barcelona had a suspended 2-year transfer ban, didn't they? Whereas you look at Chelsea, have just come out the other side of a is it 3-window transfer ban as well? There is a real view that British clubs have been targeted, whether it's fairly or unfairly, but not being treated in the same way as those elite clubs like Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG, Bayern Munich, probably less so Bayern Munich, but PSG, I mean, come on.
Don't get me started on Bayern Munich with Leroy Sané and their tapping up of Leroy Sané, which I just think they feel are untouchable. And I think that's the thing. If you look at the makeup of that UEFA committee, the executive committee on UEFA, the big boys are all mentioned, and PSG are in the same situation as us, funded by Qatar. They've got a guy on the executive committee of UEFA, and they're not being investigated. I can't see anything dodgy going on there at all. So, but I can cry foul as much as I want. If the rules are the rules and we've broken the rules, You know,
Well,
but it's about being treated fairly. All the clubs being treated in the same way. I totally agree with you.
Well, I think at this point is whether the punishment matches the crime, or maybe not the crime, but the way City have acted with their handlings with UEFA. So it'll be very interesting.
Is it a crime? Broken a rule, maybe.
You know what I mean? It was back to the kind of thing of misreporting. Whatever the reasoning behind that is the misreporting of the figures. It's for whatever reasons that was.
But it's misreporting of the source of the figures, isn't it? It's not the actual numbers themselves. Yeah. Now, again, that might be a semantic. I genuinely don't know enough about accounting to know.
Three guys here trying to make sense of something that's very complicated.
Exactly. But the other side of this is, if you look at, and again, it's more whataboutery, I guess, but look at the way Liverpool's funded. Look at the way United's funded, and people just draining money out of the game. The amount of if you go to the Etihad and walk around, and that was the backside of Manchester 10 years ago. It was awful. You genuinely walk to the ground looking around you. The regeneration that's gone on around there.
The community work the City are doing as well.
The promotion of Alex Williams, City in the Community. He was at our social gathering recently, and he was saying these guys are amazing. The amount of work, and they let City be the club that they've always been. They have not tried to change the core of the club, if you like, the people at the club, and that's why they've done it properly. That's why he feels they've done it properly. And you see ex-players not having a word said against the club, which I think says a lot. Certainly in this day and age, where money does talk a lot more.
Well, clearly there's a lot to be talked about on this, and I'm sure we could be talking well beyond 11 o'clock tonight talking about it. But let's then try and. With all that in mind, then I suppose the matter at hand is the Champions League. While you're in it, and
what time is it?
Real Madrid in the knockout stage. How do you feel ahead of that? Do you feel like this kind of news is going to galvanise the team, or are you?
I worry, if I'm honest with you. I worry from the point of view that there are big things planned. As you can probably imagine, in the home leg. I just worry that it's going to be a distraction. I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong. But have we got the wherewithal to beat Real Madrid? Yes, of course we have. But
they're not the side they were, are they?
They're not. But they've got that guy in charge is pretty. He's got a fairly decent record in the
top of the Liga as well. So not to be sniffed at.
You can't take them lightly. No. I just hope that whatever goes on at the Etihad in that home leg, that they get behind the team. I mean, the talk is at the moment that during the Champions League anthem, they're going to do the Poznan and sort of face away. I think that's fine. Yeah, just get behind the team. Is the thing for me. That's certainly what I'll be doing from down here.
Yeah, and hey, I mean, whatever happens, you've had an incredible decade littered with some of the greatest moments in sport, never mind in football.
Yes.
I mean, the Aguero goal will go down. I mean, I don't even know to clarify. I don't even need to say which one. I just, it's...
Well, I'm getting goosebumps now, however many years afterwards, thinking about that.
I think any football fan, regardless of your allegiance, maybe apart from United, but you feel the same. And so, and hey, I don't really know how I feel about it, really, because it's a very tricky situation. Because if it is major wrongdoing that I just don't fully understand because of semantics or whatever, then fair enough. But it's a shock to the world of football, and I think what one thing, if I could play on the other side or play neutral, is if this can somehow make a change in how these super clubs make their dealings. I mean, Jay and I we read a very kind of very apocalyptic article in the Independent, I believe. It was about how football is kind of eating itself from within, and kind of what you touched on with these super clubs.
And we've talked about this before on the show, haven't we? About the money in the game.
Yeah, and just kind of how small that pot is getting, and how you got clubs like Bury kind of dying around it. And if this somehow can make a change in how big clubs are approached, or the governance of it, then maybe it will make a difference. Or it could be a completely relevant argument. In 5 years' time, the Champions League is dead, and it's all about this European Super League. But
who knows? I mean, I would share your argument. I was brought up within 3 miles of Stockport County's stadium, so they're back in the National League. They're on the way back.
Park,
Come on, Jim Gannon, and they're on the way back. And they were. There's not enough money that filters down. There's only so many bathrooms that Raheem Sterling needs. I get that, and I fully understand that. And whilst players should be rewarded, and you have to pay the money to attract the right kind of player. I accept City probably have to do that more because of the fact that we don't have that rich history in the recent past. I would argue that we've got a richer history than a lot of the clubs that purport to be bigger clubs than us, but that's just a moany old City fan going on. We won the cup before United did, and all that. But and Liverpool. But I am sounding bitter. I am bitter. I'm fine. I can be as bitter as I want.
You can target Liverpool on the show, it's fine.
But no, I think it's it's not fair, the football pyramid at the moment. It genuinely isn't. And to see clubs, struggling, I mean Crawley, struggling from hand to mouth, struggling to pay players' wages at Macclesfield, it's not right. No. And, and when you've got, clubs that are, soaking in gold at the top of it, it's not, something does need to be done. But I don't know whether that's the responsibility of the clubs, whether it's the responsibility of UEFA. Well, God help us if it is. If it's the Premier League or the Football League. There needs to be some kind of collective response. Yeah. And I understand that FFP has something to do with that. Is the fact that you can't have clubs like Portsmouth, as they did a few years back, spending way beyond the means. Yeah. I get that. Yeah. But if you've got the means, why can't you spend it?
Why can't you? Yeah.
And within reason, I accept.
Which is why it goes back to the point Gary Neville made, and a lot of us have said that FFP doesn't actually do what it's supposed to be doing. It's protecting those elite clubs, and this is just another reason for it. Do City fans and the club feel a bit targeted?
Yeah, yes, yeah. I think there's a bit of a siege mentality going on, and it's kind of. I think I feel more targeted on Twitter, if I'm honest, than by UEFA. I mean, Twitter was absolutely toxic on Friday, and I just had to come off. I think it's just you can see how. Do
you mean football fans as a whole, or City fans?
I think football fans of every other club. To be honest, and
I think that's just the nature of football Twitter at the moment. I can't stand it. I can't stand this constant arguing over stats. Well, he scored this many goals when he was 19, and he did this, and then it's like one thing happens to United, and it's everyone pause on that, and then the next day they're retweeting like, "Oh, this aged well," and it's like everything is just this constant rubbish diatribe going on and on and on. I
didn't realise you followed me on Twitter, Tom. I'm slightly nervous.
So I can't stand it. So maybe there should be a 2-year ban on football Twitter. That's what I'm.
That's a good one. I must admit, with Liverpool fans, we did play the game with the you've won the net spend trophy. Well done, lads. And of course, what they've done with the league this year, and we've not even started on VAR. But
I think that's a rather meaningless stat. I think if you look at wage spends at Liverpool, wouldn't look so rosy. But
and how much have United spent on their squad, exactly. And they're nowhere near us.
Exactly. So let's. I think the dear listeners at home need a break from our voices. But so we'll have a quick break. We'll just update you on the Champions League if you're not following already. Someone needs to do an investigation into Erling Haaland, because he must be on something, because he is ridiculous. During our heated conversation then, he scored 2 goals against Paris Saint-Germain, scoring in the 69th minute with a great poacher's effort, and Neymar equalised 6 minutes later, but Haaland has just put Dortmund back into the league with an absolutely sensational strike.
Different class, that guy,
absolutely.
Isn't he?
I mean, his goal scoring record is just off. He's burst on the scene at the beginning of the season, and you must be happy with that, because he was heavily linked to United, didn't it?
And his dad used to play for City, and he was brought up a City fan.
Is that right? I didn't know that. Okay, well, fair enough.
But
and Liverpool,
that doesn't mean he's joining us.
Liverpool still behind at Atletico Madrid. Right, this is the Meridian Sports Show. We're here with Daryn Buckley, of the Mid Sussex Blues, and also a presenter on Burgess Hill Radio. So we will take a quick break, and we'll be back with more chats after this.